It's live. Okay. And Facebook is going to be live in about 2 seconds.
Okay.
And then, yep. There we go.
Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, tell me about YouTube. Because I've got some people want to check us out on YouTube.
Okay, the YouTube is under Stronger Than Sarcoidosis.
Okay.
Hello? Okay, Rodney's going to do it. Rodney, it's all yours.
Wow.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, ready to start, Frank?
Yes, everything's on.
Okay, we want to welcome everyone this evening to our second edition of a forum that we started back in, what month was that, Frank? November
August.
of last year?
August was our first one, and then our second one was November.
Yes. For the social justice and mental health awareness program, chronically ill patients. And tonight, I'm standing in for our moderator, Ms. Shasta Posey, who had some problems getting online. I am a national ambassador for sarcoidosis, as well as Shasta and Frank, and I see some others, Carrie, Kathleen. We are also a part of the National Online Sarcoidosis Support Group, which we meet twice a month, the first Tuesday of the month and the third Thursday. Is that correct, Frank?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Tonight we want to get started. We're going to open up with a prayer by Reverend P. Turner. And then from 7:05 to 7:15, we'll have an overview of sarcoidosis by Ms. Rhonda McCullough Gilmore of the Bernie Mac Foundation. And Dr. Ansel, T. Johnson. We have Dr. Claude L. King, who is a psychotherapist. Ms. Sarah Anker of the Suffolk County Legislator. And she'll be discussing mental health during COVID from a governmental perspective. And then we'll have a group panel discussion, which will be included in that would be Mrs. Gaynell Bland, who is Vice President of the Shalimar Incorporated, Dr. Ansel T. Johnson, Colleen Merlot, Rodney Reese, Myra Rogers, and Mr. Frank Rivera. So with that being said, Dr. Leslie Ann Sekaku will also be speaking. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And she's a physician, rheumatologist from New Orleans, Louisiana, along with the UMC Hospital. Okay, so we'll get started with Reverend Turner and the opening prayer.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Most gracious God, our Father. Oh, how excellent is your name. We love you. We bless you. We adore you. But most of all, we are so grateful unto you for allowing us this opportunity and this blessed privilege once again to be able to discuss the affairs of the kingdom, of how we can continue to minister to the masses uh, dealing with this dreadful disease called sarcoidosis. But then, God, we thank you because we know that even with this disease, we know that there is, as the word of God says, there is a balm in Gilead and there is a physician in the house. So, God, we thank you for being a healer. We thank you for being our sustainer. And then, most of all, we thank you for being our savior. We thank you for those who have coordinated this discussion once again so that we can become better educated, so that we can become better learned people, because the word says and the scripture says that our people are destroyed because of the lack of knowledge. So we thank you for allowing us to be graced with knowledge on this evening. We pray, God, that you will continue to order our steps in your word. Thank you for
I think we lost.
We lost the audio.
All right. Gonna have to go on.
Oh, okay. We want to go ahead and start with even though we say sarcoidosis, this form is not just for sarcoidosis patients. It's for all patients with rare illnesses. And we hope we have other patients signing on as well as sarcoidosis patients. So we want to move ahead with Ms. Rhonda R. McCullough. She's president and CEO of the Bernie Mac Foundation.
All
So Ms.
right.
Rhonda.
All right. Greetings to all of our sarcoidosis supporters, families, and friends. We appreciate your support from across the nation. We are very grateful to those of you who have connected with us to join in this very special and important event, the Sarcoidosis Community Virtual Forum for Social Justice and Mental Health Care Part 2. I like to thank Frank Rivera and his organization, Stronger Than Sarcoidosis, and other sarcoid community leaders like Rodney Reese and his organization, the Sarcoidosis Awareness Foundation of Louisiana, for granting me an opportunity to connect with those of us who share the same mission and vision. As president and CEO of the Bernie Mac Foundation, I am honored to be a part of this event tonight. I feel it is very important to be a part of this virtual forum because it aligns directly to our mission, which is to raise awareness for sarcoidosis, along with me and a team of dedicated board members, medical advisory board members, executive director, and administrative staff. We are all vested in the mission. We work together as a team to provide the best possible support and information to our sarcoid community. The Bernie Mac Foundation is very proud to have established the Bernie Mac Sarcoidosis Translational Advanced Research Center, the STAR Center at University of Illinois Hospital in Chicago. The Bernie Mac STAR Center is headed by Dr. Nadira J. Swice. She is a foremost medical leader in the field of sarcoidosis and research. Dr. Swice and her amazing team of medical professionals at the STAR Center is committed to provide patients with outstanding care and to evaluate patients in a timely, compassionate, and courteous manner. They provide comprehensive care for patients with all forms of sarcoidosis. As president and CEO of the Bernie Mac Foundation, my personal life has also been affected greatly by sarcoidosis. As you all know, that my husband, the late Bernie Mac, he had sarcoidosis, which he was diagnosed back in 1980, I want to say around 87, 84, 87. So my emotional roller coaster began when my late husband, Bernard, better known as Bernie Mac, was diagnosed back, as I just told you, back in 84. He was around 27 years old. Normally a very active, sports driven individual, he began to experience shortness of breath, lethargy, and while he was engaging in his regular routine activities. For this reason, he went to the doctor and to see what was going on. After a thorough exam and further testing, the first doctor told him he had lung cancer, which many of you know that you can always be misdiagnosed because they really don't know what it is or how to diagnose it. So I remember he went to a second doctor because we knew it wasn't lung cancer. And she said, I have an idea of what it is, but I'm not sure. She said, but I need to do a test. So, they did the bronchoscopy. And with that, she called us about a week later and she said, it is what I thought it is. I thought it was. And we were like, what is that? And she said, it's called sarcoidosis. And we both were like, what? Sarco what? And she said, sarcoidosis. And she said, at this time, we don't know how to treat it. There is no cure. There's no medication for it. So I remember her telling him, you go on and live your life and just do the best you can. So for many years, he lived his life. He went through many decades without any issues from the sarcoidosis. I guess at that point it was in remission. So I remember it started rearing its ugly head when he became very successful in his show business career. His immune system began to become, he had cold-like, flu-like symptoms, and he did contract pneumonia, I want to say about 3 or 4 times. And all of these bouts with his health began to wreak havoc on his body. And that was ultimately leading to his passing because his immune system was so compromised. So, and with the passing of my late husband and countless others, that is why I am here this evening joining our sarcoid community to support and raise awareness and to find a cure for this disease. Can you all hear me? Okay, I didn't see myself. So I feel that it is very important for us to participate tonight because this evening was my late husband Bernard's idea to raise, to get the foundation going because he felt like he could use his his stardom and notoriety for sarcoidosis patients and for others that was in his like his I guess you would call them co-workers who work and have sarcoidosis, but for some reason those that are famous, they really don't want to come and tell people they have it. So he thought with him using his name that would help people to feel more comfortable in coming out. So that's how the foundation became. And I'm just here to continue with that vision and just help us move along with awareness for sarcoidosis and just keep being dedicated to our mission for raising awareness, raising funds, and for research. So, and I just want all the sarcoidosis patients to know that you are always have our support, and we're going to always be there with information so that we all can learn and discuss the rigors of this disease.
All right. Thank you, Rhonda,
You're
for
welcome.
those words of enlightenment.
Yes.
We would like to also thank the late Bernie Mac for his vision of wanted to start this foundation and be the national face, as we would put it, for the illness. One thing that we definitely needed with this illness was somebody that everybody could relate to. When they saw their face, they could say, "Oh, but okay, this might be something that we need to really start looking into," because Bernie Mac had this. So they wouldn't have done that if it had been Rodney Reese or Frank Rivera, because of his notoriety. And we want to thank him again for that. Next on our list of speakers will be Dr. Ansel T. Johnson. He's the president of the Bernie Mac Foundation Medical Advisory Board. He's an optometrist and clinical director and founder of the Vision Salon Eye Care Associates and recipient of the Bernie Mac Foundation Healing Hands Award. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Dr. Johnson.
Okay, just got to unmute myself. Okay, first giving honor to God who is the head of my life. I think it's a tremendous blessing and privilege to present to this group on a national forum today on behalf of the Medical Advisory Board for the Bernie Mac Foundation. I first want to thank Rhonda McCullum and Marianne Grosset and the board of the Bernie Mac Foundation for allowing me and other members of the Medical Advisory Board, Dr. Trotter, who is a rheumatologist, our other member, to serve. It's great to get outside our offices. We as doctors tend to be in our office because we're all busy, but to impart some knowledge on the general population as a whole and cast a wider net is great. And moving on, I was asked to actually talk about depression. And I'm an optometrist, so I thought, why would I talk about depression? But if we all look at the patient holistically, and as Rhonda herself said, Bernie himself was misdiagnosed. So many people go through the process of several years before they get the correct diagnosis. And there's a study, several studies that have shown that, looking into it a little bit deeper, that depression and mental stress are very, very common in people that have been diagnosed with sarcoidosis and other autoimmune disease because it just takes so long to get the correct diagnosis and correct treatment. So there's an anxiety. There's anxiety not only with the patient, but even as Rhonda herself said, with the family. And so we as doctors, we really have to look at the person more holistically. And those that are listening that have family members, you have to be engaged with your loved ones and really just be sensitive to the fact that it is stressful for all of those that are involved. Because there's an adjustment. There's an adjustment knowing that we have this diagnosis that some people just don't know how to handle. There are a lot of people that live in chronic, constant pain. We see people that have severe eye pain that come into our office from autoimmune disease. And when it comes off and on, that's really can affect your day-to-day life and stress and pressures of the job. And let's pile on COVID-19 on top of that, where people have been shut in, with this being a high-risk group. It's extremely stressful. So we need to be sensitive to that. We need to make sure that all of us, and I try to keep resources on mental health to make the proper referrals for counseling for our patients. So COVID-19 is presented to social isolation, low self-esteem, and the stigma and discrimination. Again, Rhonda brought out the fact that people in the entertainment industry are afraid to announce the diagnosis proudly, to say that they're living day-to-day their best lives with this autoimmune when you're living with sarcoidosis. So we have to change that. And this is an opportunity to change that stigma, to say that you can live your best life. And again, in terms of the eye issues, again, sensitivity to light, eye pain, dry eyes, disfigurement of the glands around the eyelids, dry eyes, and lesions skin problems. Those are things that I see very commonly in people living with sarcoidosis. And then even more commonly, a lot milder symptoms. So with that being said, I just want to again, don't feel, to those that are listening, do not feel guilty. Just make sure you seek out and ask your doctors that are taking care of different aspects and ask them to talk to one another. We really fight even more so to communicate with our patients, rheumatologists, your primary care physician, your pulmonologist. So ask your doctors, are they talking to one another to help oversee and manage your case? Because a lot of times in our isolation in our offices, we're just looking at that one little organ, but everything is connected. And so with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to our next patient. Again, thank you all very much for this opportunity to share a little bit about how mental health can, and I know we have another mental health professional here on, but it can be handled. And that's just a part of the thing we have to do, to look at the patient holistically. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Dr. King. Excuse me, Dr. Johnson, for taking the time out to be with us tonight and sharing those words of wisdom with us. Our next speaker is Dr. Claude L King. And Dr. King is a licensed physical therapist who is passionate about building trusting, healthy relationships with many clients with the purpose of helping them remove mental roadblocks from them to life-fulfilling and successful lives. Experience in working with children, adolescents, and young adults in a family context in order to restructure the family hierarchy, excuse me, and improve family dynamics by correcting unhealthy communications patterns and resolving past issues. Strong cultural competence and highly skilled in working with diverse populations of individuals from differing racial, ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds. With that being said, we'd like to bring to you Dr. Claude L. King.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for that introduction, Rodney. I really appreciate it. I was invited here today to talk about social injustice in the United States and how it can affect your mental health. So this is a topic that I'm really happy to speak about. It's something I'm very passionate about. I hear conversations about social injustice and mental health issues as separate issues, but I'm starting to see a shift and people starting to pay more attention to the impact these issues have on one another. The first thing that pops into my head when I think about social injustice is the unfortunate murder of George Floyd that happened a year ago. And then the next thing that follows after that is racial trauma. Simply put, just seeing images, videos, hearing secondhand accounts of police brutality and other forms of social injustice does have a negative impact on mental health, whether we realize it or not. Some of the ways that it affects us is we become desensitized to violence towards Black and brown bodies. We experience a sort of numbing and disconnection from the incident that happened, especially when we've been exposed to it repeatedly. Other people can become hyper aroused and experience a flooding of adrenaline and cortisol, which are the stress hormones. And these stress hormones kind of prime our bodies to react and protect ourselves. Accompanied with that, we can experience increased heart rate, blood pressure, tensing of muscles, shallow breathing, etc. When we're unable to find healthy ways to regulate ourselves, it can be difficult for us to kind of return back to homeostasis or our baseline state. And if it continues, it could be very detrimental to our health. One of the mental health implications of kind of social injustice and being exposed to all the things I mentioned before are signs and symptoms of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Some of these symptoms include flashbacks or re-experiencing the event, thinking that you're reliving it over again, having hallucinations, seeing things that are not really there, having nightmares, avoiding people, places, or things that remind you of the incident, irritability, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, and negative thoughts such as guilt. Another common cluster of symptoms associated with this is depression. And this diagnosis is accompanied by feelings of sadness, hopelessness, short temper, loss of interest or pleasure in doing hobbies or activities that you used to enjoy, memory loss, difficulty sleeping, and reduced appetite and weight loss. So just kind of to sum it all up, it's important that we pay attention and check in with ourselves to see if we are experiencing any of these feelings or physiological reactions. And if you are, you have to start being mindful of how much of this information that you're consuming. Just like we do with our children, we have to monitor what information we're consuming and how much. And if this means taking a break from engaging in certain emotionally triggering conversations or limiting how much news and social media we are consuming, this is something that we have to do to protect our mental space.
Okay, we're gonna move ahead uh, with the program. Uh, this anchor, she couldn't be with us tonight. So we're going to move forward with the panel discussion. Frank Rivera, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you gonna help me out with this panel discussion?
Sure. I'll start it off. No problem. All right.
Okay.
There's going to be about 10 questions, and they're set up that that you guys can, I'm asking one person, but I will go on and ask if anybody else has anything else they want to add to it. All right. So actually, the first question actually goes to Rhonda. Rhonda, you around? Wait, her audio's off.
Okay. So we're gonna follow these 10 questions, Frank?
Yeah, I'll follow the test.
Okay. You want me to do it?
If you want, go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll get back to the first question with Rhonda when she signs back on to the forum. The second question is for Mr. Douglas T. Gaines. And the question is, what are the general feelings in the public about current events, protests, civil unrest that may start again due to the court case for George Floyd?
You hear me?
Mr. Gaines?
Yes, we do.
All right.
We hear you.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you. I am the board member of the Burning Man Foundation, chairman of the Finance and Audit Committee, and treasurer. I bring you greetings from McCormick Theological Seminary, which is doing a wonderful job of spreading the news and the awareness of sarcoidosis. And I echo Claude King and his reference to post-traumatic stress disorder, that this is all caused far beyond the borders of sarcoidosis. And so, to answer the question, what are the general feelings in the public about current events, protests, civil unrest, and that may start again due to the court case for George Floyd? What I thought I would do is do a cross-section of inquiry and discussion and holding conversation with baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, and Z, to see how they felt about it. And so what I share with you is from my research and from my discussions in that conversation. The baby boomers said that they were concerned about the life and death of their children. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. If they get stopped by the police, what to expect and what should they do? Generation X was deeply concerned about the life and death of their children as well. They raised concern about the city being dangerous for their family and the question the system, and concerned if this is a systemic problem built in the systems of life, the penal system, judicial system, housing system, economic system. They had questions, they raised questions. If so systemic, how can I get a job or take care of my family? And with COVID-19 putting a hard stop initially on our concerns of this social injustice, it almost bubbled and popped again. So that which we see with George Floyd is the bubble bursting. Generation Y and Z asked the question, do I really want to bring children into this world through so much pain and so much suffering? There was an expression of, do you hear me? Do you hear me? No, do you really hear me? I'm suffering, I'm in pain, I'm anguished, and I am hurt physically and psychologically. We can see it on the protest lines. Because during the George Floyd trial, Dante Wright was shot right down the street with a gun from an officer who pulled the gun out and shot it in accident trying to pull a taser, or thought they had their taser in their hand. Oh, we go a little bit further. Army Lieutenant Carson Nazario, after identifying himself as an officer of the U.S. Army, was harassed, pepper sprayed, and placed on the ground, yet maintained his hands in the air. Even while he was in the car, he placed his hands outside the car so that he would not be mistaken for pulling a firearm. The silent generation, the generation prior to the baby boomers, this is what they said. We were raised during the war and economic depression during those times. But our perspective is the segregation cannot continue to dominate and not be treated as human beings. You can only oppress people so long before they rise. Until those things are confronted and we get people to implement change, there's going to be this discord that is mounting and growing, and that is what we're seeing. The impact of George Floyd from a local perspective shifted international almost overnight through the Black Lives Matter. We have questions. This is a wake-up call. This is what the silent generation is saying. We have a wake-up call before us, and the awareness of social injustice is in our social locations, and it speaks not just of now, but to the future generations to come. The overall concern is for our future generation as to whether they will be treated fairly and with respect.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there will continue to be an unrest and a growing rampant, and it will impact us all, everyone. This is a brewing right now, and it is not going
To go away.
my. When you attack our troops, my father served in Vietnam and passed away. And so when I saw that hit home. When you attack our troops, you lay down, the ones who lay down their lives, they stand on the wall so that we are protected. We Kaepernick, who took a knee and doing it in a peaceful manner, you call him un-American. When an officer of the army who sacrifices what he has done to protect us, wearing a uniform, and another officer, a police officer, uses profound and explosive language to incite violence, you have to ask the question, which is more un-American? Lastly, in the incident of Dante that was shot because of an accident of pulling a gun, an accidental pulling of a gun as opposed to a taser, we have questions. We have questions because you're a trained police officer. You know what a taser feels like. You know what a gun feels like. You know what side your gun is on. You should always be calm in a situation of distress. But these are the times that we are living in. And these times we are in, we have to have body cams just to protect ourselves. So how many more Black and brown people have to die before there is true, real change? Yes, we have questions. We have questions. That is the community speaking of love. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. Rhonda, do you have your mic back on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to that question then.
Okay.
For you, it is, why did Bernie Mac want to be part of the Social Justice and Mental Health Care Part 2 Forum?
All right. So, as president and CEO of the Bernie Mac Foundation, I felt that it was very important for us to participate this evening because my late husband Bernard believed that we could make a difference in the regards of raising awareness and trying to find a cure for sarcoidosis. So, with a vision and a generous donation from him and myself, we formed the Bernie Mac Foundation to make it become a reality in 2007. So I want the sarcoidosis community to know that we are here. We are dedicated to the mission of raising funds and awareness and research. And we just want all sarcoidosis patients everywhere to have that source of support and information to learn, and so that we can discuss and just help one another out with this disease. That is why I felt it was very important for us to be here today.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next question is to Kim. Kim, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, everyone.
This question is, what is the impact of these events on the physical, mental, and emotional health of those in the sarcoidosis community, and particularly in the African American and other minorities?
Well, I could speak for myself. I want to thank you guys all for starting this foundation, because I was diagnosed with, from what I was told, a rare disorder called optical neuritis, pulmonary sarcoidosis back in 2019. So thank you so much for having me. I was originally misdiagnosed. I was told that I have Lyme disease. And by the grace of God, my body kept flaring up and it was telling me, you know, listen to your body. And that's one thing I want to share. You have to listen to your body. You have to go to see the doctor, no matter what it is. If it's just you're swollen, because that's what happened to me. I just kept swelling up. And I just wouldn't take that for an answer until I was hospitalized. Every symptom that the doctors had mentioned today, I have right now. And to be honest, the social injustice doesn't help. I am having anxiety attacks just thinking about teaching my son how to drive. You know, the first thing that I would have to tell him is don't move. You know, say I'm scared to get my license. Even if you're not scared, I tell him, say you're scared, you know, because that's just the sad reality that we have to face today. And there is way too much people dying, and there are many individuals that are already stressed out. You know, this is just added stress for African Americans. This isn't new. This is not new. What is new is the cameras. What's new is social media, and everyone's able to post on social media and record what's going on. These things have been happening for a very long time, and it needs to change. It needs to be addressed. Everyone is on edge. Everyone's stressed out. We don't need to deal with this. Families are already dealing with enough with day-to-day challenges, whether it's to stay on unemployment or get a job, you know, to take the vaccine or not, having to worry about our kids just going to school. So we're already facing challenges. This is just one challenge that we should not have to deal with. So right now, at this moment, everyone is stressed.
That is so true. And thank you very much for being here. Okay, the next question is, how do we help the sarcoidosis community when it comes to social justice? And this is out to Reverend Turner.
Can you hear me?
Reverend Turner here?
Can you hear me now, Frank?
Yes, you can. Sure can.
Okay, thank you. When we look at this situation, it kind of ties into our two previous speakers. It kind of overlaps, but when we begin to look and see pretty much what is going on and what is happening across our country, I'm sure everyone would agree probably with me when I say that the disparities in our communities are major, and it is multi-tiered. It is tiered on various levels that allows you and I to begin to really understand just where social injustice really lies. It really makes you and I begin to really understand and realize that we have a lot of work to do, because when we begin to see the disparities based upon zip codes, the disparities based upon social status, the disparities based upon our cultures, the disparities even based upon, last but not least, uh, healthcare and mental illness. And then when we begin to look at the socialization of what is taking place, this what we're talking about tonight is a very small but yet powerful spoke in the wheel. So how do we help the sarcoidosis community when it comes to social justice? We begin to help them, number one, by knowing that there is, with each and every one of the disparities that I've called out, there is alternatives. We even have disparities in education. We have disparities in business. We have disparities even when it comes to incarceration. So when you and I begin to talk to our communities and the various people that we meet, one of the major roles we have and one of the major assignments we have is this thing called, or this word called, awareness and education. The way we reach our community and the way we help them with sarcoidosis and the many other disparities that are affecting and that are attacking us is we must educate our community and our people. And I believe one of the greatest ways we do this is by we start teaching our young people and let our young people know that they have a future. Not only that they have a future, but we need to instill in them that they are our future. And the way we must be able to reach each and every one of the people that we meet, as so that we are able to attack this situation well versed in knowledge, well versed with compassion, but well versed with a heart and a purpose. Because if we continue to do and travel the road that we're traveling and we don't have
Did we lose Reverend Turner? Okay, we'll come back for that. Some reason we lost. Oh wait, he's coming back. We can hear Reverend Turner. Are you there?
my feed keeps going out.
Okay, we got you now.
Okay, what was the last thing you all heard?
Uh,
Educate our young people, show
Thank you.
love and compassion to them.
Yeah, because if we keep traveling this road with abandonment and have a reckless fashion, we will end up teaching our young people and our future generation, quite honestly, how to be social renegades. And we must be very careful in how we deal with that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Now, if any of you guys want, have anything else that you want to add to these questions, you're more than welcome. Kimberly, I see your hand up.
Yes, I would like to add to what Reverend said. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is exactly what the youth need. And I would like to introduce to everyone the Suffolk County Department of Labor, Licensing and Consumer Affairs had started a LI at Work social media campaign. And what we are doing is we're showcasing individuals like yourself at work throughout Suffolk County in our area. But of course, we welcome everyone because everyone has cool, there are a lot of people that have cool careers. So we don't want to say no to anyone, but we are highlighting those who have awesome careers. And the campaign seeks to introduce the careers to high school students, allowing them a peek into economically empowering jobs in the future, as well as highlighting the connection between their classroom into a career. So I definitely would like to share that with you, and all are welcome to be a part of it. And this is for the youth.
Thank you very much. Okay, So, all right, on to the next question. I'm getting feedback here. Okay. All right, here we go. It's this next question is for Dr. Sakatu. How do we help sarcoidosis patients find balance in our day-to-day, considering their specific limitations? You're muted.
Help me unmute.
There you go. There
Okay,
you go.
great. Thank you. We get balance by having support, like friends that unmute you.
That helps.
And that's a metaphor that I think goes a long way. I think support is so important. And if there's anything that we've seen again and again in some of the research that we've done is that some of the greatest benefits that one could hope to have when having a medical condition is the kind of support and the network of support that you may, as a person that has a health condition, may get great medical care, clinical medical making decisions, but there's something that cannot be quantified, that is expansive and that is healing about having a connected community and other people living with the similar health condition. I feel like as a physician, I've learned more about any of the illnesses that I care for because I listen to patients and because I've been taught by, and patients do this for each other. Patients help each other find ways of coping, help each other find ways of recognizing complications of disease that we as physicians may not even recognize yet. But patients know that they exist and they help each other navigate. And I think that sense of community, that sense of shared knowledge that is different and can even be more powerful than that of what you expect from physicians, is essential. The other aspects are things that have been talked about already as well by Claude King, for example. Knowing yourself, knowing what you can bear, knowing when you need to take a break, knowing when you need to be involved in what you see in front of you, whether that's shared experience with a patient, whether that's getting proactive and active and speaking up, or feeling part of something that you know, I'm doing this, I'm walking this path because I'm walking it for change. I'm walking it to prevent suffering, and I'm walking it to prevent the suffering that exists now, or to try to reverse the effects of trauma that we're experiencing from living in this violent world and this oppression. And some of the ways that we can heal from the trauma is by being active and creating another life, another opportunity for living in fairness and justice. And I feel a lot of this has to do with being educated. So when you posed this question to me, Frank, something that I kept wanting to share is that with the conversation tonight is that what we're seeing in terms of social injustice that has been going on, this is not far from what happens in the medical system. This is systemic. We talked about that. There's, to a great degree, it's systematic, but as was already said, this is financial. This is about careers. We see this in education, but we see this in the medical system, and there's enough discussion in the literature about this solely in sarcoidosis, a so-called rare disease. Because if you're not educated and you come from a marginalized community, what can happen, and what happens frequently, is that you don't know the options that are available to you if you're not educated, and therefore you're given lesser options. When you're given lesser options, or you're left on prednisone for God knows how long, you end up with complications, maybe because of the illness, maybe because of the medication. And what that does is it further compounds the disparity that's already there financially. You may not be able to work because of these complications, or and it just further pushes that chasm of disparity. So again, echoing what everyone says about education, what everyone says about respect and compassion. Education, advocate for education in terms of health condition, and advocate for trauma-sensitive care in our medical community. This should not be something so difficult to attain. Trauma-sensitive, trauma-informed care is respect and it's compassion. And so often people go to the medical community and they experience trauma. Again, they're just re-traumatized by disrespect, by being dismissed. So advocating for those changes are important, and being there for each other, to do those things, to advocate and to tell folks what you experienced is we all experience that. And that goes a long way too. So thank you for this beautiful experience and for all the wisdom that's been shared here tonight, and for this opportunity to be enriched.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming. And now the next question is for Ganel. What are some of the issues facing the sarcoidosis caregivers and family, and how do or did you cope with it?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I want to start off by saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this panel tonight. I feel like the biggest problems that sarcoidosis family face is being misdiagnosed, or the lack of education, just not knowing about sarcoidosis at all. I'm here on behalf of my mother, who passed away from sarcoidosis in 2017. We were misdiagnosed by our local hospital. They said she had lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and we didn't find out what she had until maybe 2 or 3 weeks before her passing, that she actually had sarcoidosis. So I feel like just the biggest problem is the lack of education about sarcoidosis. That's why me and my family partners with the Bernie Mac, and we try to spread the word and awareness of sarcoidosis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. For some reason, they didn't want to listen to me. Okay. So, thank you very much. And it's nice to have the perspective from a caregiver side and a family member. A lot of times we always talk to patients, but always forget about the caregivers. And I'm glad that you were able to come and talk on that behalf. The next question is for Dr. Johnson. I know you're a doctor, but how does sarcoidosis and/or any chronic illness affect your mental health? How would you explain that one, Dr. Johnson? I don't know, having trouble? Dr. Johnson, you there? Uh-oh, looks like we lost them.
He's here,
Okay.
but I don't think he can hear you tonight.
All right. Well, would anybody want to talk about that? How how does sarcoidosis affect your mental health? All right. Well, yeah, Kim.
I could say something.
Okay. Who? Yeah. Dr.
So, in many ways, sarcoidosis can impact somebody's mental health. It could be because of the disease state itself. It could be because of the uncertainty of the future. It could be because of the lack of confidence in the medical care that the healthcare system.
Oh, just
Um,
that.
and
Like how old did you
and all
say?
of these things can impact health. The symptomatology related to sarcoidosis in terms of fatigue, um, that's a strong impetus for depression, because folks cannot do what they want to do. They cannot perform at the level that they want to perform or participate to the degree that they'd like to participate with their families, or it's impairing work. So there's a myriad of ways, but then there's also a myriad of ways to find one's way forward.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sakatu. From a patient's point of view, I can put a little bit more onto that. Um, I've been dealing with mental health a lot lately, but I really, for me as a patient, sarcoidosis has really taken a toll on me mentally. Um, I I won't lie, and in 2015, I actually thought about committing suicide. I was so entrenched in my mind that I actually
I
my
want to.
counselor talked
Can
into
you
my
all hear me
counselor.
now?
Yes. Hold on 1 second. I'll finish it and I will go right back to you. Um, yeah, and
I wanted to
I
share a little bit of insight on patients and how you really have to be your own advocate, and how to communicate with your doctors, especially when you get frustrated with getting different answers and different um, results. And a lot of times we don't know the answers, but engage your doctor and ask questions. And I tell my patients, if you have a physician or an optometrist or whomever that does not have time to answer your questions, go find another physician or optometrist or other doctor or other specialist. Because it's important. It's very important to stay engaged in your health. Keep asking questions. It is okay to do research on the internet. However, and have that discussion, and then just have it prepared to have an intelligent back and forth decision. Um, and don't be afraid to seek second opinions. I tell my own patients, if you want a second opinion from what I present to you, that's fine, because what it means is that you're empowering yourself um, to take care of your own health care. So don't be afraid to ask questions. There are no dumb questions. You have all studied many years to have the level of knowledge that we do, but we still don't know everything. Um, so don't be afraid to engage and ask questions.
thank you, Dr. Johnson. Yeah, and I'll just quickly finish up mine. When I talked to in 2015, I have a counselor. I've had her for 11 years now. And when I talked to her, I actually put myself in a 72-hour watch. And that means put myself in the hospital for 72 hours to make sure that I wouldn't take my own life. And if it wasn't for her and my family support at that point in time, um, I, I could see myself doing it. It's a very painful disease. So I understand that. And when you see that there's nothing there that might help you, I understand. But I always say that two things I always say is that you're not weak asking for help. That makes you strong. Makes you a stronger person if you ask for help. And Kim, did you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to, thanks for sharing that, Frank, because many people wouldn't talk about that. And that's something that I think everyone needs to hear, because mental health is real. And there's so many individuals who have been shut out or looked down upon because they speak their mind. You know, there's a lot of individuals who do not know how to communicate and need help with communicating their feelings. But because they are so busy fighting just to have their feelings validated is the issue. You know, you have to take the time to listen to someone, even if you don't understand them at that time. But listen, try to understand them, because that's when they start spinning out of control, because they feel alone. It's the worst feeling to feel alone. And I have to say, when it comes to medication, I'm on loads of medication, and a lot of individuals don't understand that changes your mood. It changes you. You have mood swings. You know, you may not even know what's wrong with you. You may not even know that you're having a mood swing. You know, but you have to have someone that is loving to say, okay, are you okay? We need that.
Yeah,
I need that. Right? We need to say, you know what? Okay, wait a minute. You can't be mad while someone else is mad. You know, you have to have a loving heart and not be so busy trying to tell someone how they should think, how they should feel, how they should communicate. Try to listen, try to teach. We all need teaching. I need teaching. I don't ever think I'm perfect, but that's what happens. A lot of individuals think that they're so perfect, you know, and don't know how to communicate. So thank you, Frank, so much for sharing that. And you know, a lot of individuals need to hear that so that they do not feel alone. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Kim. I do appreciate that. All right. Well, this leads actually into the next question. It's for Colleen. Colleen, here's your question: Is what are some other barriers that people with sarcoidosis or any chronic illness face in trying to get mental health care, and what can we do to let or get rid of those barriers?
Thank you, Frank. I want to thank you as well for sharing, and I'm glad that you're still here. I'm glad you were able to ask for help, and you're absolutely right. That's not a sign of weakness. I think it's the most strength someone can express is when they're feeling vulnerable to ask someone else and to let that person into that moment of pain. So I'm glad you're able to do that. You know, I think when it comes to chronic illness, a lot of well-meaning friends and family members send a message that it's normal to feel anxious and it's normal to feel sad. And that's very true. But it is not necessary to feel depressed, and it is not necessary to feel anxiety. And so knowing the difference between those, right? So I may be newly diagnosed with a chronic illness, and that can throw me for a loop, and it can even cause me to grieve and be sad. But if that's prolonged for weeks, then I can seek treatment for depression and feel better. And I think that's the other piece of it is people often lose hope for feeling better because it's hard to differentiate. Is it the chronic illness, you know, and the doctor spoke about the fact that there's fatigue and all of that. Is it the fatigue that's causing this? Is it the illness that's causing this? Or is there something outside of this? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Can it be treated by something else? Can it be improved? Or is this just part of the course of the illness? I also think, and working with people who have chronic illness, a lot of times people are so overwhelmed by treating the illness that they don't want to go see another doctor. They don't want to take, more medication if that's going to be the course of action. The chronic illness is primary concern, and that's all the effort that they can put in at that moment. I also think some people spoke about this before, is just the preconceived notions around mental health treatment. And some people come to me with really strong bias towards the mental health system that's inside them, or fear of what their loved ones are going to say about them. A lot of times I hear, I was raised where we don't air our dirty laundry. We don't tell other people about what's going on in our home. And we need to get past that so that we can have these real, honest conversations and be there to support one another during our moments of pain. And Mr. King spoke about racial trauma, and I think that's at play here as well. We know that historically, Black and Brown people were not treated well, were mistreated by the healthcare system. We know that currently there's still systemic racism and disparities in the healthcare system, and that's especially true in the mental health care system. More than half of people with severe mental health diagnoses who are Black or Brown or Hispanic or Asian do not seek treatment, and we need to do better. The mental health care providers need to recognize that and do better. So those are the concerns, but what can we do about it? I think we need to hear from people who are struggling. So Frank, you did something about it tonight by telling your story and sharing that. I always use the scenario to highlight stigma. If someone goes into the hospital and they have heart disease or surgery, we send them flowers, we rally around them, and we ask, how can we support you in your recovery? If somebody goes into the hospital because they had a suicide attempt, what do? We whisper, oh, they're back at school, they're back at work. Oh, we need to stop doing that and to be there to support people if they're struggling with their mental health. I think that when it comes to chronic illness and supporting the mental health of individuals, we also need to do better integration. So, there should be mental health within primary care providers' offices. There should be mental health within hospital systems, and all medical professionals should be trained with some degree of recognizing so that they can refer to mental health professionals. I also want to echo, what the doctor spoke about in terms of trauma-informed systems of care. I love that people are talking about this. This is something that I've been talking about for many, many years. And to hear people finally recognizing, and doctor, I'm not saying that you haven't been, but to hear people actually understanding what trauma-informed care is. We're talking about it in school systems. We're talking about it in healthcare systems. And also we're talking about it through, a racial justice lens, which really needs to happen, because if we're not addressing that, then, we're not going to get anywhere. So I also think, talking about the financial impacts too, sometimes finances don't allow people to access mental health care. And even though we have mental health parity and we have the Affordable Care Act, there's not parity when it comes to mental health. Copays are really high. A lot of mental health providers don't take insurance at all. So we need to do something about that to make it more equitable for folks. And lastly, I'm just going to say that we need to, as mental health providers, make sure that we are reflective of the communities that we're trying to serve. So, I'm from the Association for Mental Health and Wellness, and one of the things that we routinely talk about is we have a lot of staff that are white. And how do we increase our capacity to serve the Black and Brown and Asian communities when they walk through our doors and they may not see people who look like them? And that's not to say that we don't have individuals who are representative of a diverse group, but not enough, right? And so how do we do better at recruiting and retaining that talent? So thank you for the opportunity. I really am appreciative of being invited to speak and be part of the community tonight.
Thank you very much. All those are really good. Tips. right. So the next one, I'm actually going to give it to Claude here. It's a two-parter. Okay. It's what are some of the red flags that people with sarcoidosis should look for to indicate that it's time to get mental health? And now the second part of this is how do we change the negative stigma of asking for mental health, especially in men?
Yeah, so it's kind of simply put, when you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness like sarcoidosis, and you're noticing that your quality of life has been significantly impacted, it's definitely time to consider reaching out for mental health treatment. Um, it's pretty common or typical to feel sad or discouraged when you're trying to cope with symptoms of an illness like sarcoidosis. You probably are experiencing difficulties managing pain, and new physical limitations that are placed on you. You may have resentment, that you're no longer able to enjoy some of the hobbies or activities you used to be able to enjoy. And it's extremely difficult for people to just accept the new reality of that. So if you're experiencing some of those feelings and symptoms, along with feeling like just really irritable or hopeless, you're seeing like a change in your sleep or eating habits, decreased energy, if you're starting to have, suicidal thoughts or attempts, and these kind of signs and symptoms are lasting for several weeks and you're not really seeing them kind of dissipate, then it's probably a good time to reach out for help. Um, your second question, Frank, was how do you change the negative stigma?
Yes, especially in men.
Yeah. I think Colleen touched on a lot of really good points, so I'm not gonna kind of go over that again. But I will. One thing that does stick out to me is, for men especially, I think just a lot of healthy conversation around mental health helps to kind of normalize it. A lot of men don't like to talk about how we feel, and we try to keep everything bottled up and try to contain it, because we feel like we're showing signs of weakness. So just one man that decided to reach out for help and seek out a therapist can really have a snowball effect, for a lot of other people. Just them talking about it, normalizing the conversation. Yeah, I'm going through some depression. I'm really sad. I'm going through some grief and loss issues, and my mental health wasn't, where I wanted to be. So I decided to reach out for a therapist. I've been in therapy, for this certain amount of time, and I've seen that it's really been like working for me. Just, encouraging conversations like that can maybe kind of tip the scale for somebody who may be considering it, but they didn't want to feel like they would be weak or less of a man because they reached out for help.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. And I know, like, being a man myself, I talk to a lot of people who always like, how can you go? Or, you're supposed to be the strong one. I always hear, you're the strong one, you're the strong one. Well, you know what? We're not all strong, and there are times when we are strong, and there are other times when we're not. And we really do, as people, have to understand that. And like I said before, it doesn't make you weak for asking for help. Actually, it makes you stronger. And I really believe that. So I have one more question, and then after that, I'm going to just pick out some people who have sarcoidosis and kind of look just a quick synopsis of what you have, where you have it. And actually, and Ganel, I'm also going to ask you about your journey for sarcoidosis with your mom. So the last question is actually to Amaya. You ready there? Is she there? Is she frozen or is she there? Hello, Maya? You there? I don't know. Is she stuck or something? Well, you know what I'll do is I'll actually go on and then I'll
All right,
come
I
back
just
to
got
her.
a note that I am on. I've been having some connection problems, honestly, tonight, I
Okay.
must say.
Okay. Well,
But to
it's a
briefly
question.
answer my question before I have another connection problem, the issues that patients seem to face mostly or mainly, other than medical, I will say are financial. When it comes to financial support, housing is one that I'm hearing a lot. A lot of people are finding it hard to find financial support when it comes to ways to pay their bills, when it comes to any form of help um, as a financial support. Also, medical expenses. I mean, we know that medical bills can be very, very pricey. And we also know that sarcoidosis does not have a cause. We do not know a cause for it. And we do not have a cure as of now for it. And those within themselves can both be very, very pricey. That's just the realm, that's just a couple things in the realm of financial support. But mainly, I do hear, unfortunately, a lot of patients or sarcoidosis warriors, as I like to call them, they do have a hard time finding ways to find housing support because they are living at home or they are in their homes consistently or constantly due to the circumstances that they're dealing with, plus COVID on top of it all. I mean, you mix in all the circumstances, they're not really able to get outside much. Their home is where they're at. Their home is their everything, you know. So when it comes to who can help them to pay their bills or gain financial support, that's one of the things that they find, or I would say they run into as a problem consistently. That's a consistent problem on top of medical problems. Um, I mean, that just adds to the list because I know my question is other than medical problems, but that is huge. The fact that, I mean, there is no cause, there is no relaying um, cause for this disease, and we don't have a cure for it. That's startling within itself. We don't have the funds right now, I would say, to really drill in to find a cure for it. You know what I mean? So when it comes to a big problem, you know, that people are facing, it is money. Money is a huge, huge problem. The next thing I would say is support for the correct diagnosis. I mean, now we keep hearing the fact that there are a lot of patients who are getting the wrong diagnosis from a lot of medical experts. You know what I mean? And that's startling. That is just, it hurts my heart to speak to patients personally with the Bernie Mac Foundation that have constantly gotten the wrong diagnosis. I mean, it really breaks my heart because at the end of the day, they don't have the support. They don't have the tools to really dig and I would say get the higher up experts, the more expensive experts.
Hmm. Thank you so much. It's so true. I mean, there's so many things, but what you brought up is actually kind of a precursor to what we're going to be doing on our next one. Hopefully, on a better server. I'm still working on it. Sooner or later, I'll find a good one. But we actually our next one. Don't know when it's going to be yet, but we're going to talk about economic and social diversity with like sarcoidosis. Okay, whether it's diversity in clinical trials, whether it's diversity in healthcare in itself, um, and then, like I said, it's also social. It's also economic. Like you were talking about the, you know, people just don't have the money and they don't have the right insurance. So we're going to be, that's our next project, next forum that will be part of it. So, but I'm just going to have a couple of people really quickly. Just, Rodney, you there? Oh, you turned yourself off again. You turned yourself
You
off.
took me off, and I was taking myself off. I'm here.
Okay, Rodney. So I just want I just want to leave it with. I know it's a little bit over, but I really want the people that either have or like have a family member who has or had sarcoidosis, just to describe your journey, just really as quick as possible. How's that? Go ahead, Rodney. All yours.
Okay, Frank, I didn't hear all of your
Just
question or your statement.
basically just a little bit about your journey for sarcoidosis.
Okay, well, as you know, Frank, I have a long journey with sarcoidosis. But it started, I was involved in an explosion at the chemical plant where I worked. That was in 1997. After inhaling, the ceiling tile collapsed in the building where we were, and it was full of dust. Uh, I related to a mini, all that dust that you saw during 9/11. This building was full of dust, like that. But I inhaled a good bit of that dust, and after immediately responding outside to see what had gone on, and I noticed it was our plant, I started searching for two guys that was out there. I ended up inhaling chemical, and about an hour and a half or so later, I started, breathing, shortness of breath, and that's where my journey started. Well, it took me 3.5 years to finally get a diagnosis of sarcoidosis, simply because, for those of you who don't know, sarcoidosis is known as an illness of exclusion, which means they exclude all these other illnesses, then you're diagnosed with sarcoidosis. Well, it took 3.5 years for me to be diagnosed with sarcoidosis. I was immediately put on high doses of prednisone, which the drug prednisone and high doses for long periods of time, it can also cause you mental problems. You become anxious, you have anxiety, problems sleeping. I didn't realize these things were happening to me until my wife told me one day that my daughter had asked her, Mom, why is it that when I come home from school, when I speak to Dad, he growls at me like a bear? So these kind of things, with medications, certain medications that they put you on, cause problems, in sarcoidosis patients. Another thing I want to touch on quickly is, I think it was Dr. Johnson that stated, and I want to also state this because this has been a motto of mine.
Heck yeah.
If your doctor doesn't listen to you, or if he doesn't have the time to answer your questions, find another doctor. Please don't be afraid to. Don't be afraid. I mean, I've been blessed with very good physicians, with physicians that are not, my physicians, but that are good friends, like Dr. Sekaku, that I can, go to when I have problems. Some others around the United States who are sarcoidosis experts, that Frank and I both, and a lot of other patients, they don't hesitate to take your questions and give you guidance and leadership with the way you should go. But other than that, Frank, it's been 21 years, I think, since I've been diagnosed, and I'm still here.
All right.
I told my doctor was saying, he said, I don't know how you still here. I didn't think you'd be here this long. And I told him, I'm still here, doctor, because the Lord's not ready for me.
That's right.
And the devil can't handle me. So,
Yeah.
I'll leave you with that, Frank.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. Let's see. Ganelle, I'm going to have you speak about your journey with your mom having sarcoidosis. I know you talked about it a little bit, but if you could just let us know a little bit more about it, because I really like the people who are watching this to understand what it's like to be a caregiver.
Yes, well, my journey was very short. It was a very short journey when we did find out. December of 2016, she was going to the doctor. She was diagnosed with pneumonia. We feel like that's what triggered the sarcoidosis. really not, because it was a lot of unanswered questions, where it came from, how long she had it. Fast forward to February the 7th of 2017, that was, her doctor called us and said that she needed to go to the nearest emergency room because it was a spot on her lungs and it wasn't pneumonia. Well, we did that and they ran tests, and then that's when they began to tell us about rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, when it was really none of that. She came home with oxygen 24 hours a day. We searched around for a rheumatologist. Here in Southwest Florida is very few rheumatologists because her appointment was out like 2 months. Well, needless to say, she never made it to the appointment. We had to go back to the hospital. She was admitted again on February the 22nd. She was there. We weren't getting answers. The shortness of breath was getting even worse, the tightening of the lungs. So we had her moved to Tampa General Hospital, where she was there for 11 days. Of those 11, 9 of those days, she was on a ventilator. So my journey with sarcoidosis was very, very short. She had some, that's why I was saying being educated is very important, because she had symptom and signs, but we didn't know. They were testing her for everything else other than the sarcoidosis. Like I said, here in Fort Myers, Florida, where we live, I don't even think it's a doctor that had heard of it or that treated a patient with it, because we got no answers. I was so grateful that she didn't struggle long with it, but we miss her every day, and that's why me and my family are a part of the Bernie Mac Foundation, so we could just make others aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
like I said earlier, people tend to forget about the caregivers. You know, I know with my wife, I don't know where I'd be without her, because I'm on disability. So my wife is the only one working now. So, and just to see her struggle through what I've been through, I really understand a lot more, and I really want people to understand, not just understand, but also don't forget about caregivers. They're very important in your life. Okay, and Kim, are you still here? Kim? I don't see.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Just give us a little bit of, about your story.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm having issues with my eyes, so I had
Okay.
to turn my lights down. Um, well, when I was diagnosed, I was told that I had Lyme disease. Originally, my ankles were swelling. I wasn't feeling good. I was placed on prednisone. I had shortness of breath. They told me to finish it. It was, but what happened was something with the testing. They didn't do the testing properly, and that's why it came back that I had Lyme disease. It was a false positive. And after I finished the 7-day prednisone, about 2 days later, my face just swelled up. My eye was swollen, and I said, "There's something wrong. I feel better, but now I'm all swollen." My doctor had rushed me to the hospital, and like Rodney had shared, they had to eliminate. I had spinal tap, I had all kinds of stuff where they had to eliminate and see exactly what was wrong with me. That took about a week. So what I did was, by the grace of God, I had an awesome doctor by the name of Dr. Spencer, and his mother had sarcoidosis, and he had shared with me to eat better, drink a lot more water, and eat nothing but green vegetables and cut out all my meat. And I have to tell you, that's exactly what I did. And I continued to go to the doctors, but what I was doing was I stopped taking my medication because it made me feel terrible, because they weaned me off of prednisone onto Cellcept. And I had to tell you, that is the worst medication I had ever taken, because it made me feel tired all the time. I couldn't get it together. And I have children. I can't be tired. So it was just the worst feeling. So what I did was I started to wean myself off of that. And I still went to get my MRIs and make sure that I wasn't hurting myself by not taking it as well. And I have to tell you, the results kept coming back, great. My optical nerve wasn't as swollen, because I was losing my sight. It's attacking my eyes. So what happened was, I that's exactly what I did. I started eating better. But what happened, I ended up getting into a car accident. A young lady had rear-ended me, and it caused I have a herniated disc that's pinching my nerve. And because my disorder's in my nerves, it caused me to flare up again. And I have no control over it now, where I can't just eat better and take care of my body, because it's pinching my nerve. And that's it. It's over.
Neck ahead.
So I now am on prednisone, and we have to figure out what to do.
Okay.
We still echoing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's fine. Yep. So we have to figure out what to do. I have to take the prednisone, otherwise I want it. But if I don't, I will be flared up. And it had actually traveled into my other eye, and I had an asthma attack, and I never knew I had asthma about 2 months ago. And that was scary. I was driving home with my daughter. So now it's causing just that a lot of people I do want to share is that when you're stressed, or anything that's bothering me, I should say, if I start to flare up, it causes a reaction. Even if it's just a little bit of stress, you bother me, I'm my eyes hurting. And that's the thing with sarcoidosis. Anything could cause a flare up. You're around someone that's smoking. I inhale a little bit of smoke, I'm flaring up. I'm bothered. I'm starting to breathe heavier. I have good days, I have bad days. And sleep. That's one thing my doctor did tell me. We have to sleep. You have to listen to your body. You have to get some sleep more. You have to take a nap. And it's hard because, like Rodney said, the prednisone keeps you up. I'm tired, but I can't sleep. So it's like it's not helping either, because it's helping my eye from keeping me from losing my vision, but I'm affected. It's breaking down my bones. That's what prednisone also does. It breaks your bones down. So it's every day. What helps me is helping others, to be honest, helping others, and being there for everyone, my community. When COVID hit, I actually was on disability because I took a year off to take care of myself when I was diagnosed. But once I had heard about COVID, that's what made me go back to work, because I love my community. I love to be there for everyone. And that's what keeps me going.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you very much for your story. All right, I'm going to leave it off on a couple of quick notes here about myself really quick. The first note is, just like everybody else, I was misdiagnosed. I was misdiagnosed in 2004. Mine went a little bit further, unfortunately. I was misdiagnosed with lung cancer, which it happens a lot. Well, down in Florida at the time when I got misdiagnosed, they took the biopsy and still said I had cancer. So I went through 4 years of on and off of radiation and chemotherapy for something I didn't have. I found out in 2011, I moved back up here in 2009, but 2011, I found out that I actually had sarcoidosis because I had another episode, and they did the biopsy, and they found that it was sarcoidosis, and it always was sarcoidosis. So yeah, but the problem with going through the chemo and radiation for me was that the chemo actually helped because it helped the granulomas, or masses as people want to call them. It helped them from not growing, and but the radiation killed my body, and I was down to 98 pounds. So by the time I got diagnosed with sarcoidosis, I already had it in 75% of my body. Unfortunately, now I have it in every major organ of my body, and then also my skin and brain. So yeah, so it's been a travel of things. I've been told in 2018 I was told I was terminally ill and that I had a couple of months to live. And I could tell you, I told the doctor, I don't see a expiration date on me, so I'll go when I want to go. So as you can see, it's 3 years later, and I'm still doing. I still get like January. I found out I had diabetes to add on to everything, and that was from the prednisone. And then now I'm actually not on insulin anymore because I stopped the prednisone and I'm eating right, and now I'm not even doing that anymore. So I just want everybody to know out there and that you are not alone, and don't think that your journey is any less or any more than anybody else, because each journey is different and each person is different. So listen to their journey, try to understand, and just, like I said, just be there for them. We don't want people to feel alone. That's why, I do these things. That's why we do all these things. Everybody here, I want to thank all the panelists for everything that you guys do. I mean, it's amazing, not just in this room, but also in your daily life to help with sarcoidosis. Sometimes I get kind of emotional, but I really do appreciate all the support I get from you guys and from everybody else. A lot of people, always kid around that I'm there for everybody else, but I always feel like you guys are here for me. So I do appreciate it very much. And thank everybody from Burning Mac. Thanks, Rodney, Dr. Sakatu, Claude, Jimmy, all you guys, Terry, thanks, Cheryl and Kathleen, thanks for going into to moderate the Facebook and everything. And thank you, Marianne, and thank you, Rhonda. Um, and on that note, I'm gonna say good night to everyone. I know we went over, and I do appreciate it. And thank you all again. Good night.
I can't hear.
Now I can hear.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much, Frank. We're
Thank you, Frank.
grateful. We're grateful. Very grateful.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate it. Sorry about the mix-ups here.
Everything is wonderful.
I'll find a platform
Thank
sooner.
you. It was a pleasure to hear from everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Frank, for this opportunity.
No,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. And
It's been a pleasure. Nice
yes,
meeting
same
you
here.
and everyone. I wish you all well. Continue to be safe. And just may God continue to bless you all. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Blessings.
Yes.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Need to get everybody over here.